He had the badge, the proper ID, everything that said he was legit, but somehow he was the one they treated like a suspect. This was a Wednesday morning, say around 10:30. The Park View corporate tower in Boston, Massachusetts had this big lobby, usually a place where absolutely nothing went on. Picture this: lines of beige couches, some artificial trees here and there with large clay planters, and a main counter where the person working looked like they were just counting the minutes. Folks drifted in and out, hardly a word spoken between them. You know the vibe. Everyone kind of keeps to themselves. But this day was different. Marcus Thorne entered, moving with that calm assurance of someone who's got a clear purpose. He had on black trousers, a crisp polo shirt, and a brown leather satchel was draped over one shoulder. He stood tall, aware of his surroundings, but not in a threatening way, simply zeroed in. As he passed through the big glass doors, he gave a civil nod to the guard stationed by the counter. The guard didn't nod back. So Marcus went over to where people wait, positioning himself by a wall. He was looking at his phone, had a wireless earbud in, listening to something. Once in a while, he'd murmur something so low you couldn't catch the words. Anyone else would probably just see a man getting ready for an appointment. But not all eyes saw it that way. Behind the big rounded front counter, Sarah Miller, who was pretty new as an admin assistant at Quantum Solutions, was staring hard at him. She nudged the woman next to her, whispering, "Hey, recognize him?" Her coworker just looked up for a second, gave a little shrug, and got right back to her keyboard. Sarah didn't give up. Her eyes narrowed. "He's been pacing," she insisted, and talking to himself. "He just doesn't look right." She had no idea who Marcus was, never bothered to find out. But bits and pieces, the black trousers, the wireless earbud, him standing by himself, they all just snapped together in her mind the wrong way. Rather than just going up to him and asking if he was okay, she reached for the phone on her desk and called building security. "Hi, there's someone in the lobby area. Not clear on his business here. Perhaps you should check." Then she said it, the words that sealed it, acting suspicious. And that's all it took. Meanwhile, up on the 5th floor, Marcus's guy at Quantum Solutions was behind schedule. Marcus himself had no clue about the storm brewing just one floor below. So Marcus just stood there, completely oblivious that a single phone call was about to define the next 9 minutes for him. Downstairs, 2 officers were already arriving, responding to a report that conveniently skipped some vital facts. The alert Boston City Police dispatch got simply mentioned a possible suspicious individual in a commercial building. The report said nothing about weapons, no actual threats made, just wishy-washy enough to seem minor, yet specific enough that they had to check it. Officer Mark Jenkins and his partner, Officer Carlo Ramirez, happened to be nearest. They'd both been on the job for a couple of years. Not brand new, but not old-timers either. Jenkins, he was the kind of cop who treated every single call like it was major, perhaps a bit too much so. Ramirez was more reserved, watchful. She usually liked to get more information before jumping in. "Got a man, early 40s, African-American, in the lobby, walking back and forth, talking on a wireless earbud," the dispatcher relayed. "Caller thinks he could be checking the place out." Jenkins glanced at Ramirez as their cruiser approached the tower. "Scoping?" Jenkins echoed. "Could be nothing," Ramirez said evenly. "Or something." She just checked her body cam was on and stepped out. Indoors, Sarah saw the police car pull up. She stood by the window, arms crossed, almost as if she was daring anyone to say she'd made a mistake. Marcus was still over by the wall, now looking through some documents on his phone. He leaned a bit, opened a document file, and spoke softly into his earbud mic. "Target verified. Position stable. Awaiting go-ahead." Suddenly, the main doors slid open. "Excuse me, sir, could we have a word?" It was Jenkins, his voice bouncing off the polished stone floor. Marcus glanced up, a flicker of surprise on his face. "Of course." "What's this about?" Marcus asked. "We need you to step from the wall, hands visible." Marcus blinked, not with panic, but he was clearly thrown off. "I'm with the Bureau," Marcus stated. "Here for a scheduled meeting." "Bureau of what?" Jenkins responded. "FBI." At that, Jenkins's eyebrows shot up. "Got ID?" Jenkins asked. "Yeah," Marcus said, calm, reaching for his satchel. "Let me get it." "Sir, don't reach," Jenkins cut in. Marcus froze. His hands stopped dead. The already hushed lobby seemed to hold its breath. "I just told you I was getting my ID," Marcus said, his voice still composed but with a new edge to it. Ramirez moved in a bit, her eyes on both of them. "Can you place the satchel down and open it, but do it slowly?" Jenkins asked. Marcus knelt, unzipped his satchel slowly, then put it on the floor. My badge is in the side pocket. You can retrieve it yourself if you want. Jenkins didn't make a move for a second. His jaw clenched. Marcus remained absolutely motionless. I'm supposed to see someone at Quantum Solutions, Marcus stated. It's about a surveillance matter. If you need to confirm, you can phone Agent Laura Sanchez at the Bureau's regional office in Springfield. No call was made. Ramirez's eyes flicked to Sarah, still standing by the reception counter. The admin stayed quiet, offering no reason for her call or what she'd seen. Sir, I need you on the floor now, hands visible, Jenkins said, his voice sharper. Marcus slowly sat down, his eyes locked on the officer the whole time. But upstairs, an elevator had just started its journey down, and the person inside was on the verge of changing the whole dynamic. Marcus remained seated on that chilly stone floor, hands flat, his brown leather satchel untouched nearby. He breathed evenly, but his eyes carefully followed every single move the officers made, where their hands drifted, how near they were, and all the things left unspoken in that charged quiet. Over by the main desk, Sarah was restless. She hadn't really known what to expect when she made the call, but this scene wasn't it. Her eyes darted from the floor to Marcus, then to the cops, and then back to the floor. You could just feel her discomfort. Her expression grew tense. Not a peep out of her. Officer Jenkins stood his ground, feet apart, his tone unwavering. Are you armed, sir? Jenkins asked. Marcus replied steadily, yes. Bureau issued Sig Sauer P3-20, concealed, left hip. It's authorized. My ID is in the side compartment of my satchel, Marcus added. Jenkins didn't answer immediately. He didn't step closer either. He made no move for the identification. He just stared at Marcus, almost like he was waiting for a lie to materialize between them. Officer Ramirez edged a little towards the satchel. Marcus saw her. Left side zip, he said. Metal ID holder with photo ID. I'm Special Agent Marcus Thorne, badge 84352. Ramirez knelt down, unzipped that side compartment, and gently took out the metal ID holder. She flipped it open, and there it was, plain as day. The photo, the badge, the official papers. It was all there, all genuine, all perfectly in order. Her gaze shifted to Marcus, then up to Jenkins. Seems on the level, she murmured. Jenkins didn't loosen up a bit. Still need to confirm, he muttered. No surprise registered on Marcus's face. You can radio the Bureau's regional office in Springfield, or just call Agent Laura Sanchez straight. I'm positive she'll pick up. His voice was even, but it was that steely kind of calm. You know, like a shield. The air in that lobby just kept getting thicker, even with Ramirez holding all the proof she needed. It was like Jenkins had cranked things up so high, he didn't know how to bring it back down. As if stepping back would mean he wasn't in charge anymore. The lobby doors opened once more. 2 building security guards came in, one older, one younger. Neither spoke much. They simply took it all in. A federal agent on the ground, 2 cops looming over him, and a receptionist who looked like she'd give anything to undo her call. The older guard quietly said something to Ramirez. She gave a nod. Marcus shifted a bit. Look, I'm not trying to cause trouble. I'm not a threat, though. I'm just here working. I won't reach for a thing unless you give the word. Ramirez got to her feet, the metal ID holder still in her hand. She glanced at Jenkins. We really ought to radio this in now. But Jenkins didn't reply. He was just looking at Marcus. Probably less sure he was dangerous, but still at a loss for what to do next. Only 6 minutes had passed. It felt more like an hour. And then a sound none of them were anticipating. A gentle chime from the lift just behind where the officer stood. Someone was coming who wouldn't need any introduction to Marcus. The elevator doors parted smoothly, and out walked Agent Laura Sanchez. She looked professional as always in a charcoal skirt suit, her chin-length brown hair swept behind one ear, her bureau ID fastened to her waistband. She carried a thin folder in one hand and a reusable water bottle in the other. Honestly, she looked like she was heading to a meeting, not walking into a tense standoff. But the second she took in the whole picture, Marcus on the floor, 2 cops over him, the whole lobby feeling like a stretched rubber band, she froze right there. What in the world is happening here? Her voice sliced right through the quiet. Every head snapped towards her. Marcus didn't bat an eye. Morning, Laura. Sanchez started toward them, not rushing, but with purpose in her stride. Can someone tell me why my top agent is sitting on the floor? Officer Jenkins faltered for a moment. Ma'am, We were answering a call about a suspicious individual. This man, Sanchez cut in sharply, this man is Special Agent Marcus Thorne. He is here under my direct authorization. You are holding his credentials, so I'm going to ask one more time. Why is he on the floor? Officer Ramirez decided to speak up. Ma'am, the report we got said he was acting oddly. Building security wanted us to investigate. He confirmed he was armed, so we went by the book. Sanchez kept her voice down, but there was no mistaking she wasn't just making inquiries anymore. Did he fight back? No. Did he make any threats? No. So you saw an African-American man in a lobby with a wireless earbud, and your immediate response was to put him on the ground. She looked straight at Jenkins. Is that the procedure now? He stayed silent. Marcus got up, taking his time. 9 minutes, Marcus said, dusting off his black trousers. That's the amount of time I was on the floor while they looked at me like I was about to detonate something. Sanchez's jaw visibly clenched. You're clear, Marcus, she told him. Then she faced Ramirez and gave her a small card. If either of you still needs to verify his identity, my personal cell is on that. Let me save you the effort, though, she said. He's a 10-year Bureau veteran. We've been partners on cases for 4 years. Check his record. You'll see he has more commendations than many agents get in 15 years. Ramirez accepted the card. Jenkins, however, did not. Sarah from the reception desk took a clumsy step forward. I just wasn't sure, she mumbled. I felt I couldn't take any chances. Marcus eventually turned his gaze to her, not with anger, just a deep wariness. You want to hear the ironic thing? He said, his voice flat. I was right beside the building directory the whole time. You could have just asked me my name, he pointed out. Sarah didn't answer. Her mouth opened, then shut again, speechless. But Laura Sanchez hadn't finished. And what she was about to say was going to land with more force than anything before. Sanchez moved towards the cops, her voice still composed, but with a razor-sharp quality that sliced right through that uncomfortable quiet. Just before I arrived here, she stated, Agent Thorne reviewed a transfer request. A police officer applied to the Violent Crimes Task Force. That file was on his desk this very morning. She angled her head just a bit towards Jenkins. And if my memory serves me right, the name on that application was Mark Jenkins. You could have heard a pin drop in that lobby. Jenkins blinked as if he couldn't believe his ears. I'm sorry. Sanchez met his gaze directly. You put in an application. You detailed your academy scores, your street experience, even that time you handled a hostage situation solo. It's a good file, genuinely. Marcus crossed his arms. I'd marked it for an interview, Marcus stated. Figured you had sharp instincts. Someone who could judge character well. Jenkins swallowed hard, but he couldn't find any words. You were just 15 minutes from having your initial chat with the Bureau, Sanchez added. And look at the situation now. Ramirez adjusted her footing a little, flicking a quick look at her partner. The weight of what was happening was sinking in rapidly, and it felt much more serious than either of them had anticipated. Sarah, who was still close by, turned around slowly and started to retreat behind the counter, seeming to get smaller with each footstep. Nobody made a move to stop her. Marcus's tone stayed even. This right here is exactly why we discuss prejudice. It doesn't need to be aggressive to cause real harm. Sometimes it's just one call or deciding not to ask questions, or a hand staying near a weapon for 9 straight minutes while someone just waits to be treated like a human being. Jenkins finally spoke. I didn't realize. Sanchez's expression didn't change. That's the whole issue, Officer Jenkins. You didn't want to realize. You only saw what you assumed you'd find. No one raised their voice, no shouting matches. Just 2 bureau agents and 2 city cops on that polished lobby floor, which now had the feel of an interrogation room. Marcus looked towards Ramirez. You read my ID. You knew it was real. Ramirez nodded slowly. I did. And? She looked down briefly. I didn't push it. I should have pushed back. Marcus nodded once, his expression clear, not angry or bitter. We don't pick the moments that really challenge us, he said. We only get to decide how we react to them. Just then, the lift behind Sanchez chimed again. Another person emerged, this time a manager from Quantum Solutions, finally showing up for the appointment Marcus had set up 45 minutes prior. He paused, obviously confused by what he saw. Sanchez looked at Marcus. Still on for the briefing? Marcus grabbed his satchel. Yeah, let's head up. But right as they were about to leave, Marcus turned back. He had one more thing to say, something that Officer Jenkins would carry with him for a very long time after that day was over. Marcus pivoted slowly, a hand settling on the strap of his brown leather satchel. He looked directly at Jenkins, who seemed frozen in place, almost as if he wished the floor would swallow him up. "I want you to take something away from this," Marcus said, his voice quiet but firm. "The single thing that set us apart in this lobby today, I knew exactly who I was." Jenkins offered no reply. There was nothing he could say. For the first time that whole morning, he didn't look like an officer of the law anymore, just a man in a uniform that suddenly seemed to hang loosely on him. Ramirez glanced from one to the other, her own face unreadable now, pensive, perhaps even a little ashamed. Her lips parted as if she was about to speak, but no words came. Marcus didn't hang around. He turned back to the lift and stepped inside next to Sanchez. Sarah was partially concealed by the reception counter, clutching her phone as if it were some kind of shield against everything she'd just seen. She remained silent. She offered no apology. Her expression, though, spoke volumes. Sanchez pressed the button for the 5th floor. The elevator doors started to slide shut. Then just before they met, Marcus's voice came out, soft, so quiet you could barely catch it. 9 minutes, he murmured. That's how long it took to nearly wreck a career and possibly a life. The doors sealed shut. Upstairs, things felt very different. Marcus didn't move like a man recently shamed. He walked like someone who'd experienced this too many times. And with each instance, the pain lessened, just a bit. It wasn't that it stopped hurting. It was more that it had become something he almost anticipated. Sanchez looked over at him as they headed down the corridor towards the meeting room. "You okay?" Marcus just shrugged. "Fine," he said. "Just tired." Sanchez didn't pursue it. They walked into the meeting room. A large monitor on the wall was already showing the Quantum Solutions emblem and a rundown of names connected to this data theft investigation they were on. Marcus hooked up his laptop and started opening files, just like it was any other day. Back to work. Down in the lobby, though, the air was still thick. Officer Ramirez went over to Jenkins softly. "You all right?" she asked. He didn't respond immediately. "I applied to the bureau because I wanted to do more," he finally said, his voice low. "Make a real impact." Ramirez nodded slowly. "Maybe today offered you that first chance," Ramirez offered. Jenkins sighed, his eyes glued to the blank elevator doors. "Didn't feel that way to me." Ramirez glanced over at the main counter. Sarah was gone. Her computer monitor was still on, but the chair in front of it was vacant. "No," she replied softly, "it didn't. But maybe that can change." What Marcus didn't know, however, was that one of these officers was more than just rattled. That officer was about to choose a path that would completely change this story's end. An hour later, the upstairs meeting finished. Marcus closed his laptop, shook hands with the digital forensics unit, his face a perfect mask. He was all business, totally calm on the surface, but you could almost see a heaviness on his shoulders that wasn't there when the day started. As he walked into the corridor with Sanchez, she offered him her key fob. "Want me to come down with you?" Marcus just shook his head. "I'll be fine." Sanchez hesitated, then nodded. "I'll ring you later." He acknowledged with a brief nod and rode the lift down by himself. Silence in the car, no piped-in tunes, just the quiet whir of the machinery and the glowing floor indicators above. When the door slid open into the lobby, he wasn't anticipating seeing anyone, but Officer Ramirez was still present. She was propped against a pillar, arms folded, her face calm, not guarded, not distant, just authentic. Marcus walked by without pausing, but she stepped out. "Agent Thorne," he stopped and turned. Ramirez drew a deep breath. "I waited around because there was something I needed to say, not because anyone instructed me to." Marcus just looked at her, saying nothing. "You were right," she said. "I read your ID, saw it was all legit, but I still stood there and let things unfold as if you were making it all up. I didn't question it, didn't challenge my partner. I just stood by and watched." Marcus's voice was soft. "Why tell me this now?" "Because I don't want to be someone else who sees what's right too late and then just looks the other way." He studied her expression. She wasn't putting on a show or trying to smooth things over. No badge involved now, just a woman trying to come to terms with her own silence. "Sorry doesn't fix much," Marcus said. "I know," she replied. "It doesn't erase fear or undo years of this stuff. I get that as well. But taking responsibility," Marcus continued, "that begins when you actually voice it. Say it yourself. A lot of folks never even manage that much." Ramirez nodded. "I thought I recognized bias. I never imagined it could wear my own uniform." At last, Marcus offered her a slight, weary grin. "Oh, it shows up in all sorts of outfits. Business attire, lab coats, guard uniforms. It even parks itself behind reception desks." She gave a small smile. "Think Jenkins still has a shot at the bureau?" Marcus's face became serious again. "He does," Marcus allowed. but only if he's truly honest with himself first. The Bureau doesn't need agents who carry power, but don't understand its weight. Ramirez remained quiet as Marcus walked by her toward the glass doors. Just before he went outside, he stopped and glanced back at her. "Let him know the interview can still happen," he said. "But this time, I won't be the only one asking the questions."